Hi there, it's Timmy Joe, and that last video with the Asus Tooth Gaming 6900 XT, I don't know, what was I doing? I don't know what I was thinking. I stand by the point of the video, and I stand by my opinion that it's really hard to recommend an AMD card when an NVIDIA card exists. And I know a lot of you are gonna have a hard time understanding that, but as a tech reviewer who has played with a million graphics cards, this thing just really disappointed me because it was like 8 months, a year too late to the market. If it would have got here before coronavirus, if they would have been working on Big Navi, that was really my point. It could have looked so good. But then NVIDIA beat them to market and all that stuff. And yeah, I think I was just really way too hard on this. It's an amazing technical achievement. 2700 megahertz, almost if not as fast as the competing flagship card in rasterization. And yeah, that last video, I just wanted to kind of illustrate that there's some technologies that go beyond rasterization performance, regular gaming performance, that are really changing the landscape on things. But I guess you guys are right. Right now, it doesn't make sense I made a video 3090 versus 3070 and DLSS and stuff. So how am I gonna redeem myself? I wanna show you that I enjoy this technology and that we can have fun with it. Well, I'm gonna put it on. Well, an AMD FX 8370, and we're gonna see how silly that is. Power. Beep. It sounds like it's booting. Four beeps? An anomaly is detected on CPU fan error or CPU over temperature error or CPU over voltage error. Please ensure you have a CPU. Oh, really? That's... You know what? Honestly, I don't have them plugged in. Okay, but I don't have a signal. Look at the Time Spy Extreme. Look at it. CPU test. I had time to run over there and grab the camera, come over here, set it up without the mic, and then I put it on and the lights weren't on, so I go and turn the lights on, and then I sit here and I realized that my camera settings were like this, so I was like, finally adjusted it, and it's still doing it. It's so slow. Alright, so I got this guy all here. I've been running some tests. I've actually been gaming on this thing for a while. It's running the CPU test, which is 30 frames a second. That's not great for Firestrike, but I mean, that's definitely not the, I don't know, the 5 frames a second Time Spy Extreme was doing with the CPU test. That's hilarious. This will probably also look pretty bad. So I got the 6900 XT all hooked up to its old ass grandpa of a CPU, the AMD FX 8370. I overclocked it to 5 gigahertz with this Be Quiet 360mm cooler, which seems to be working out well. And I then went to benchmark the 18 frames, that's not so great. I went to benchmark all of the games that I did in the last video. So there's just 5 games, and they were games I chose due to DLSS. The reason why I'm comparing against them is they're all very new games. And then I don't have to rerun the numbers, and I can also apologize that there probably is a version of AMD Fidelity FX, which will be their like DLSS whatever. Apparently they're all supposed to work on the Navi cards. There we go, we got our whatever, our DLE here, and you know, that's good. I hope it does work on all the Navi cards. I don't see how it could be anywhere near as good as DLSS, at least for a year or two. I mean, it took NVIDIA a generation to get it going, so hopefully there is a DLSS alternative. And as for the last video, if you didn't see it, this is funner. This is funner. So we get half the score in Fire Strike Extreme versus the 6900 on the Ryzen 7 5800X. That is hilarious. The graphics score remains pretty close to the same, but that physics score, oh my goodness, is a mile away, And then if we go over to here, and I should be able to go to here, there we go. This is the Time Spy Extreme difference. It's halved. Basically, by going with this process, I know it has half the threads, but it has a whole lot of IPC problems, that's for sure. So I posted this teaser on Twitter yesterday, and then someone down here figured it out and wrote FX world record, and then I went over here and I put this in here, and then I like searched the CPU, and what was really funny was, yep, I guess that's a world record. It's not really one that matters, but that's pretty funny. So, yeah, the CPU score 1336 on the FX series processor. It's 5,523 on the Ryzen 7 5800. So how does it game? Alright, so I'm just loading into Cyberpunk because we're going to play that last because it's the newest game and it's going to have probably some of the most hilarious results. But before we do that, I did test for the other games from the video in the last video there where I was comparing DLSS titles, but I think that'll work out great because those are all newer titles, right? That, you know, need quite the horsepower. So starting off with Control on the 6900 XT with the Ryzen 5800X, we got a healthy 103 FPS average, which is pretty good for Control. That's not counting any ray tracing or any stuff like that, but the average FPS with the FX CPU is pretty close, 93, but, or not, sorry, 96, but yeah, I can keep up, or I can, you know, sort of try and get there with the big boys, but I can't hang with the big boys. No, because that 1% low of 15 was a stuttering mess. You know, but I was very surprised that it was playing Control that well, and obviously it's not that big of a CPU dependent title, so that's pretty good. And then I put in Wolfenstein, and here's where things start to go absolutely bonkers. We get half the FPS with the exact same settings. Half. We went from an average of 288 to 130. It's less than half. And if you look at those 1% lows, they're not so great, but I mean, with that kind of a well-optimized game in Vulkan, we can see that it wasn't super bad, but definitely pretty bad. You know, it was playable, but what's the highest end graphics card you pair with an FX series processor? Maybe an RX 580 class card, maybe a 1070. You know, maybe you'd get away with that and you wouldn't be losing too many frames in the CPU. Certain games you definitely wouldn't, but a lot of games you would. So just a word of advice. FX is definitely going by the wayside, and its low IPC on single cores is pretty bad. But anyways, Shadow of the Tomb Raider, it wasn't looking too bad. Half the FPS again, but what really killed it was at the end of the benchmark. I did the benchmark for these, you know, whatever, for the ease of access. There's a village it shows after it pans through a mountain, and as soon as you get into that village, the FPS tanks so bad, and there's so many stutters. It's ridiculous. And then, last but not least, Fortnite. I know very well. I play it all the time. Hovering around 200 FPS almost with the 6800 or 6900 XT on my 5800X. And when we switch over to the FX processor, half the FPS again, pretty much, 117 average. But Oh my God, was that ever a stuttery mess. In fact, even just trying to load from into the lobby, when you start a game, half the time it wouldn't even get me to the lobby. It was so hard for this thing it was chugging so hard. One time it even dropped me off the battle bus after it had completed its whole cycle on the island, and it just threw me out at the end of the battle bus. That's where I started my game. So it's very, very bad. Stuttery mess as soon as you get to someone you're fighting them. Was this FX series processor ever designed to run games in 2021 at full, 1440p full graphics? Probably not. But it's a fun experiment to see, what's going on here. So let's load up Cyberpunk. This is gonna be fun. We were getting in Cyberpunk a healthy 79, 49, 31 before. We're gonna see what we're gonna get now. We're getting almost 80 FPS average before with the 5800X. Let's see. We're ready to go. We're gonna just jump right in here. Ooh. So our 30, reset that there. There we go. 45 FPS, 40. We can spin around. That's going to really lower things. We're in a pretty hopped up bar here. There's lots of lasers coming from the ceiling, so we're not going to judge this thing too hard. How do I get out of here? I think here? Yeah, okay. Go through there you go, the beads, and walk out into the real world. Open the damn door for me. There we go. Look at that. Beautiful. 32 frames a second, maxed out with a 17 1% low and a 0.1% low of 14. This is great. So, I don't know, man. It's cinematic. This is what a Switch port of a Cyberpunk would look like. No, it would probably be much worse. So we're getting less than half the FPS again. And yeah, we're getting really bad. Oh God, I got hit by a car. Quit driving with me. Oh, we could ride on the car? Oh, that is so cool. So yeah, this is a little cinematic. Spin it around there. That's gonna make someone sick, but ooh, looking pretty cool up there. So I don't know. Did the AMD FX 837, any of them? They're all the same. Any of them? Did they fare well? 10 years later, not exactly. There's a lot of 10 years later, 8 years later. There's a lot of Intel CPUs that do so much better than this thing. But I just thought it would be a really fun experiment today to see if putting AMD's most expensive, most powerful, most insane graphics card ever onto an FX series CPU, what kind of fun would we have with that? And I think the answer is there. It's quite the bottleneck these days. I want to end the video by saying that the last video, it is kind of ridiculous to pin the 3070 with the DLSS versus the 6900 XT, and I said some things in that video that might not exactly have been, I wouldn't say true, but like they were my opinion. But what I've done, some people have talked to me since, and number one, AMD's FX Fidelity FX, AMD's Fidelity FX may be coming as soon as next month. I think that's that's coming from WCCF Tech TV. Possibly, but I mean, it was on Tech Rate. I don't know. It's kind of a rumor that might be happening. But according to AMD themselves, and I didn't see this, they're going to support this function on any of the Navi GPUs. Now, is it gonna work the same? Is it gonna be as good? I really doubt it. It's gonna take some time for it to mature and develop, but to see them running this hard and some actual evidence showing that they're trying to get it working on last generation and this generation's cards, well then hell, maybe my last video would have made no sense whatsoever. And in like a couple months, it's like, wow, that was a stupid video idea from Timmy Joe. But in the interim, we did get a video where I put an FX series processor all over this bad boy, and we saw some wonderful performance. So I'm at Watch Timmy Joe on Instagram and Twitter. I want to thank the Patreon people that have been popping up on the screen as of so far. If you want to help out the channel, there's a Patreon in the DLE below, and that would be really lovely to help me produce videos and have a lot less ads on the channel and stuff like that. That's my goal for 2021. I will see you guys in another video. I don't know, I might leave this set up and just like play some video games like this, because it's just like, it's such a gem of a system right here. FX, just sitting on a test bench. Old dusty ass saber-tooth motherboard. And thanks to the dude who sent this out, buddy. Thank you very, very much. I will see you guys in another video. Keep it sleazy.